Good afternoon, everyone. This is Todd Fithian from Legacy, and I'm excited to have you here with us today. We got a bunch of folks on here. I'm hoping we can really get some dialogue for today's discussion. Unlike most, of these, I don't have a PowerPoint here today, but what I really want to do is spend time with you in Qualitate, which is our web-based application. I know those of you that are on here today are using it, some more than others, some have access, some it's going to be a brand new concept. But that's what I want to kind of show you today, what we've built, why we've built it, why it's so critical for you as financial advisors or members of financial advisory teams and businesses to be really integrating Qualitate into your process with clients and ultimately as a really, really powerful tool in helping navigate the decisions, right, around implementation and execution and things of that nature. And so, today is about going deeper, connecting deeper with clients and really looking at it from part of it is technology, but the other side of it is about the important conversations that you're having with clients. And so I'll kind of just I'm going to share my screen. I've got a couple of different things that I want to walk you through, but first we're just going to start into with Qualitate. And ultimately this is the screen you come into when you enter in, and you'll see all your clients and can just create and add new clients, whether they're business owners, individuals, or what have you. I'm going to look at the Miller family today, just kind of as a test case for, it's a real case, but it's one that we always are showing when we're showing the full capabilities and things with inside of Qualitate inside the system. So, after today, if you're interested, we've got like a sample deliverable where we've pulled in a series of reports that would be really how you would ultimately present it to the client so that you can look at that deliverable and see how it's different than what you might be doing or showing or sharing with clients today and helping them make decisions. So if you're interested, you'll be able to reach out to Michael. You should all know how to get in touch with him because he's probably why you're here with his invitation. But you can reach out to him and he can get you a copy of the PDF deliverable so you can kind of look through it. But let's take a step back and kind of just give you the history and perspective on Qualitate, because I think it's important. Early on in our own advisory practice, everything we do and teach and kind of preach here at Legacy and coach to, all of this was developed out of years and years in our own wealth advisory practice, right? It was out of that created the need and the opportunity to really launch Legacy. But really the core purpose of Legacy is about helping advisors build the deepest possible relationships with clients, that again is possible, and ultimately about really putting you at the center of their lives and becoming ultimately that most trusted advisor. If you've read our book, The Right Side of the Table, if you haven't, you should absolutely get a copy because it really just tells the whole story. But Qualitate, the application, was not designed because we saw ourselves as a fintech and creating a fintech, for the industry. However, today we definitely see ourselves in that way, right? That we've got something special and unique here. But it was built because we were teaching advisors to have these impactful conversations up front that go beyond just the surface area discussions around goals and objectives with clients. And I think we all agree that's really, really important stuff. However, our belief and experience and the results that we've generated and helped firms for 2.5, I guess, decades now implement is by going a bit deeper and keeping the connection to what's important to people and the things they want to pursue or solve or what have you, to keep that evidence and that conversation fluid in the relationship over the lifetime of the relationship, right? And I'll show you what I mean by that, and we'll talk about it first. But even in the best cases. I mean, I spend a significant amount of time inside, large and small teams across the US and Canada. And the one thing that I see is that there's more and more better conversations that are happening with clients. Like we're seeing that show up more, intentionality around really understanding goals and slowing down more and all of those things. Like that's in the best cases. And thank goodness we're seeing that show up more and more, because that is a critical starting point. However, what happens at some point in the path of the relationship and the decision process as we're engaging and taking clients through that process, the discussions we have up front become vapor. Okay, it's the best way I know how to say it. They become forgotten because there's a transition that happens around solutions and the focus around the solutions and the recommendations. And we've seen for years and years and years how that creates challenges in getting people to make the decisions that they need to make, or the timeliness in their ability or willingness to make the decision. In fact, like we've seen in many, many cases where people literally just disengaged and walked away from the process altogether. And at the end of the day, we want to change all that. We want to evolve all that. So we built Legacy in its first versions to give our advisory community a place to be able to go in and document these important conversations we're having with clients. Because listen, let's face it, I've looked at all the financial planning tools, not all of them, but enough of them in the market across Canada, across the US. And the reality is that they do a tremendous disjustice to what's truly important to the client. I talk with these organizations and firms, and all they want to talk about is their graphs and their pie charts and their Monte Carlo and all of these things. They don't get it. They don't see that they're missing a huge part of the process that is designed to move clients closer to the advisor, to commit that the client to the advisor relationally and all of those things. And that's what Qualitate does. So if you're running financial softwares, and I'm sure all of you are, and probably some different ones here today on the call, it's okay. You need those. You need those tools, and you need the quantitative analysis 100%, but you also need to be doing a better job at the qualitative analysis and aspects of the relationship. So we'll talk about that a bit in our world, and I'll share some examples. So like when you look at the navigation here, I'll just start with the left-hand side of the navigation. Obviously, you saw the main view coming in. That's where your client list is, and all of the things that you have going on with existing clients as you build them. Can be business owners, can be individuals, families, what have you. We have a lot of our clients that are working with the business, but then they're also spinning out work with the individuals. So they might have the business in there as a client working on the business, but then they're doing individual planning with individual executives or owners with inside of the business, kind of outside of the business as well, which I'm sure you all get. But anyways, that's really your client list. And then as you come into the client list, depending on if it's a family or a business, then you just simply are coming in here and putting in your, data about who are the actual people, what we call members, right? And you don't need a whole lot of data. I think one of the things we're always thinking about ways in which we can be more efficient and better, for you, because, I know a lot of my clients are opening up and touching 6 or 7 different pieces of software, their teams are, in order to be able to just work with clients and support clients. And yes, this is another step. It's another thing, but I will promise you, like I've done this long enough to know that while this might be another thing you need to open up and put information into, the information that goes in here is the thing that's going to drive results. It's going to close business. It's going to engage clients. It's going to make sure clients stay connected with the fact that this advisor, this team, they know me better than anybody else. And as you'll see in here too, some of our assessments around their other advisors that are on their team, other advisor roles, right? How we do some due diligence on them and their relationship and their value. It's pretty cool. So again, coming in here, these are just the list of the members, and that's important to put in here, because if we don't put the members in, then we can't actually take them through the process and do assessments and things of that nature on them. Starting point for us is really I'll start with the values, right? Again, hopefully you all know, if you don't, we're big on values and really getting down to the core values, on an individual basis, on a family basis. For the business, we do a tremendous amount of work in that space, but getting down to the core values that we talk about at Legacy, the rules and standards that people live by, is absolutely critical. And really, it just, in so many ways, it allows you to direct people to things. It allows you to direct people away from things. It allows you to honor the things that are most important to a client, right? Again, our system doesn't care whether you're dealing with a business, an individual, family, a widow. It doesn't matter. It's really client agnostic. And as you see, we've got business owner tools in here, as well as for the personal planning and some of our advanced pieces. But again, our value system, we've got the values card deck system. We have other ways in which you can do that in a paper format, fillable paper exercises and things of that nature. Again, a lot of our work is really helping our clients, you, the advisors, figure out, how do we efficiently build systems, process, and flows around this? Like, when do we give these things out? How do we give them out? And that's the work we do to really help you structure that in a way that it works for your business and is efficient for your business, your team, your people, as well as your clients, right? But our values set is 48 unique values. All of them are in here. It's very easy to create these reports once you've actually gotten the clients to be clear and communicating on what their value is, right? You just go through here and you've got the whole pick list. What's neat about the system is, and you'll notice if you've ever looked through our values deck of cards, there's blanks in here, right? Like, I've seen all kinds of exercises. You may have too, where, there's 100 different values you can select from. I will tell you right now, flat out, 48's enough, right? It's overwhelming. And, this has been around for hundreds of years in the psychology world. But one of the things that, we're always looking and listening and studying, what are the best practices, what's happening out there. And we're always soliciting feedback around those things. One of the things in the values exercise was the fact that sometimes a value might not be in the deck that's important to them, the word that they want to use. So clients can create their own name, their own unique value. What is it? It's not in the deck. What do you want it to be? So there's blanks in here on purpose, but they can also define it their way. This is really, really important. Like, we have canned definitions for all the values. So if it's around spirituality, for example, the definition's in here. Desire to understand one's inner soul and relationship with the world. For many people, that might be just fine, right? But for somebody else, they might want to define it a different way, and they can do that. Again, this becomes the personalization of the work that you do. Here's the game changer, right? Here's the difference maker in the values, and where conversations just go completely differently than they ever have with any other financial advisor, is when they express a story or a time and a moment where this shows up in their lives. I can't tell you enough what we hear from our advisor clients when they get into this conversation, the things that they're learning about their clients. I mean, it just takes relationships to a whole nother level. There's not a lot of heavy lifting that you need to do here. Now, in our next iteration of Qualitate, and we're embarking on that process now, we're going to add a gamification around the values system, where you can basically have them do it, basically right through an app, for example. So it's streamlined, it's easier. It might be more feasible for you to do it that way, or you might have a lot of clients that like tech, and some of you might have clients that don't want to do that. So, again, we'll always have these core exercises. I think anytime you can sit and have this conversation and lay out the values and dig into it with those right types of clients, again, I think it's powerful to create those experiences, in person. So again, here you can see that, the Millers, right? Independence is important, family is important, integrity, growth, and giving, right? That ultimately ended up being, the 5 values in the situation for them. Once we get into the values, the second piece we go into is the vision, right? Now that we understand, again, values for us are rules and standards, easy to kind of get that, but really cool, powerful conversation. Then we get into vision. I have 2 different forms of vision here, because I will tell you, some of the cases that I've helped support and work on, and I know my team has, The powerful visions can be a series of bullet points, right? Like we want this, we want this, we want this. That can, for many, many people, culminate a really important vision. Like this is how we want things to be one day. And that's how we state it. At the same time, right, we can formalize that into a more formal view, multi-paragraph statement, not a global vision statement or something that they're going to actually put up in their home or in their boardroom or whatever at work. But again, I think that's a bit more articulative and really just communicates what's important to people in a more paragraph standing. Chat GPT, things of this nature. I mean, this has made all of this really, really simple and just, I mean, it's amazing. Like we've seen advisors drop in 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 bullet points and say, turn these visionary bullet points into a multi-paragraph statement, right? And it's amazing, what'll come out of that. But this is just to give you a perspective of what's possible. Again, this is a plug and play. We've got a whole structure, the questions, everything you need to ask to help people get clear on their vision. And I will tell you, vision supersedes goals. Everybody's out there talking about clients' goals and objectives and all that stuff long enough to really find out what's important to them. And then they're shifting gears into solving. And that is a major challenge in creating these strong foundational and I think lifetime lasting types of relationships where you go generationally and things of that nature, right? And here we want to really find out, how do you want things to be one day? It's not like just getting right into goals, because in our world, the next part of the conversation, which we have a clear, compelling, exciting vision, is now we look at the goals, which is what are the things that we need to do, right, that are actually going to get you closer and closer to the vision that you want. This is where the advisor hat gets to come on. Quite frankly, the values, the vision, that's about them. That's about you being a facilitator in these conversations and pulling out of them what they're not clear on today. Because I'm going to tell you, I don't care really, regardless of the wealth, complexity, who these people are, 99.9% of the people that you're meeting with have not gotten into these conversations. They are not clear on the vision and the future, where they're going and all those things. And they're definitely not clear on their core values as a family, as an individual. These are new conversations and they create a totally different type of connection with clients, right? But as I said, once we have the values and the vision, we then move into the goals. So in their world, and again, I'll send you, for whoever wants it, a sample output of this exact case, so you can kind of see where, based upon their values and their vision, you can see that the goals that came out of that through the future discussion was financial independence, right? Business planning. They have to make some decisions around their business as an asset and potentially selling that. Education planning. Education is super important to this family. They are well educated and they want to make sure that they provide the same type of education for their grandkids that they did for their kids, things, right? So like that was really important to them. And then finally, they're a philanthropic family and they've done it non-strategically, but that was a high priority for them. So first and foremost, they want to make sure that financially they're in a really good place to do all the things it is that they want to do, right? And so we can look at some of these. So around financial independence, our model and what we teach in the goal setting process for us goes into a kind of it's a structured flow called Geyser. And so as you can see here, the goal was financial independence. The description was, we need more clarity on how to best structure our assets for their maximum potential and social use. We do not have a clear sense of where we are right now financially, which makes us feel uneasy and uncertain about whether or not we are doing what we should, right? So that was stated, really, again, that'd be stated and expressed from the client. From there, we drill down in our Geyser model. So that's the goal. But then we get into the ISER part of that. And you've probably seen me talk about this before, but we drill down about why that goal is so important. Why about getting clear on those numbers is so important to you, right? And you can see in there, like, we want to get inside the head, the heart, the gut around expressing this importance. I'm telling you right now, this is the emotional connection to their pursuit of the goal, right? This is critical conversation stuff, right? From there, we want to talk about what are the resources that we have that are actually going to support the success of this. Then we look at what are the obstacles that could get in the way of it, right? And we express that and talk through that. And then we talk about readiness and preparedness to actually act on this today, right? If we were to put a plan and a structure in place for you today to pursue this, how ready and prepared are you to move on making decisions and taking action on this today on a scale of 1 to 5? 1 means you're ready, 5 means you're not ready. Where are you, right? Again, a really, really important conversation to be in the moment around the goals, to know how critical and important is it to them. So again, this is just where we're documenting it. We've got another tool to help facilitate you through, right? Like our Discovery Insight workbook is designed to help you facilitate and navigate through this conversation with the clients, just like you do with a traditional fact finder or, other data gathering tools. And then down here, it's about achieving the goal. This is the critical piece. Like, this comes together later, right? But this is the critical piece, that now we've got them committed to what's important and they're ready and preparedness to actually act and move on this. Now we get to kind of express what's the gap that exists today, right? So the gap that exists today, and you saw it up above, they don't have 100% clarity around their finances, right? They want to do a lot of things. They want to make a lot of decisions, but they first and foremost want to make sure that they're going to be okay. Okay. And then place of most potential is just our word choice for the recommendations, right? So what are we actually going to what are we recommending? Well, you can see in here, as you look through the piece, is that, it's been determined that they're taking on too much risk with their current investment advisor and the portfolio that they have, which could be detrimental to the things that they want to do and pursue. And it's also in misalignment with their actual risk tolerance and profile. So we're going to recommend that not only do we readjust that and restructure how things are invested today, but also want to make sure that that they're protected from a risk component as well. God forbid anything happen, right? So again, you can see where things are going. There's a financial plan as a strategy, a zero estate tax plan, which is another potential strategy. So again, when we're presenting recommendations to client, this is what gets interesting. So you have the initial meetings, you do the discovery meeting, you gather all of this important information from the client, you gather all the financials, begin to start to build and construct the plan. Now we're coming back to actually present recommendations, right? And I know my clients, when I meet them, I have a lot of different processes and a lot of different meetings and naming conventions. That's all okay. What we want to make sure is that it's flowing and decisions are happening at the pace that you want them to, and that likely they should be, right? And so what I will tell you, that our most advanced Qualitate users, our clients that are the most advanced Qualitate users, they report to us today that they're rarely going into their financial plans. They're rarely going into the charts and graphs and things of that nature. This is where they're selling, right? They're basically talking about the client. Here's the values that we understand. Here's the vision you have for the future. Here's the specific goal. Here's the gap that exists, and here's the recommendations, right? And some will get more specific even than this in the recommendations, but here's the recommendation, and you can notate, see page 30 of the financial plan, right? Of the e-money output or the money guide or whatever you're using, right? And then they can go there if they want to for further evidence and things. But the reality is, like we're hearing from those firms, clients are not. They're like, no, like, us, what's important to us. You've pointed out how you're going to actually help us get there. We're ready to move forward. It's a very different way to approach it. And again, you always have the plan and the backup and the evidence. See, what I've said to clients for years, and you've heard us joke about this, I'm sure you've heard me say it, at least some of you, that we could put a picture of Mickey Mouse on page 30 of these financial plans and give it to a client. And the reality is, very few, if any of them, are ever going to call you up and say, Todd, what the heck is there a picture of Mickey Mouse inside my financial plan for? And the reality is it's because they're never going to get there, right? The reason they're with you is because of your advice and your knowledge and your credibility, right? They want to know that the plan's being done, because that's the thing that allows you to advise. But when you look at this advice movement, like this massive advice movement that is happening in our industry, right? It is on top of us, front and center. What they value is advice, not the 50, 60, 100-page plan document. And knowing them on the front end, what's truly important to them, what makes them tick, who are these people, right? And coupling that with really good sound planning, you are in a place that very few, I'll say 1% of the marketplace is engaging this way. And you may be looking at it and saying, wow, this is a lot of conversations I'm not having. I gotta add another meeting. I'll put this process up against your current process anytime. When we look at a full-on comprehensive engagement, right? There's always those one-offs where somebody is ready to do something and they're ready to pull the trigger on something. That's different. But when I'm saying, like, when you have a client that wants to engage in planning on a comprehensive level, I will put my process up against any process out there in the marketplace, and we will not only get the decision faster, the clients will do it with more vigor, excitement, and energy. I just say that because I've seen it so many times across my career. I've been doing this a long, long time. So again, looking at that. Now, just further going beyond that, we've got the planning map, right? I love the planning map. I think I've got this flushed out in here, but the planning map is our Gantt chart style map. So we come into that final recommendation meeting with the client and we create the planning map. So each of the goals are mapped out on a plan over a period of time for which we can execute, or we plan to have a start and an end date on different things. And so, figures. I don't know why this is showing up as an old date, but anyways, you can get the essence here around their top 4 goals. And basically we present a recommended action strategy and a map to show, hey, listen, we're going to begin this right now. We should be done with this in the next, probably it's going to take us 2 months to get fully through this, get your assets aligned, things of that nature, and so on and so forth. But it becomes a very powerful visual map. Clients are signing off on it. They're initialing on it. And it just becomes, again, further conviction to the fact that, we've got a process to this. We're going to see this through. We're going to make this actionable, and we're going to drive results, right, for the client. So, and then, like, you can put, again, any time frames around it over a 12-month period of time. You can actually have different levels to a specific goal. So if there's multiple parts that need to happen inside of it, but I love that visual. Our clients love that visual. Again, in the next version of Qualitate, we want to make that be a living and breathing thing. So where you can be having communications coming in and out of that, and it can be actionable to calendars and things of that nature. Today, it's not, right? So you've got to move it, manage it, manipulate it, but it's really, really simple to do. Around the team, just looking at, currently this client had a CPA. They didn't actually have an attorney that was actually even a part of the team at this point in time. So they had somebody who was managing their assets, right? So they had these 2 people. When you go in there, you can see, like, and you'll see it in the output, but we're looking at these relationships with the other professionals because we want to understand what the client thinks about them, how they value them, how they don't value them, things of that nature. So we have 2 assessments inside. One is really about looking at what's the strength that, in this case, Joe, the CPA, what's the strength actually Joe brings to the relationship, right? Is he a lifetime, friend relationship? Was he a childhood kid you grew up with, fraternity brother, sorority sister? Is there a relational connection here that we need to know? Are they really good at discovery, right? Like getting you to think about the big picture and all of that type of stuff. Do they bring really good creative solutions, right? In this instance, Joe was a 3 around that. So he's there because he's a smart guy and he brings good accounting, tax focused decisions. And then, the last one is around management. So this is a strength. Like, what is the strength that's showing up for them? Are they good at managing things and doing what they said they were going to do when they said they were going to do it? And then down below, we look at it from a trust formula standpoint as well. We do a lot of work on trust, and we use this formula as a way to be able to measure trust in relationships with existing advisors. Ultimately, we want to be measured that way as well by our clients, because we always want to know how we can be better, right? So we should be asking those questions, but we want to know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how credible are they? What's the level of reliability? What's the level of intimacy in the relationship? And then again, self-orientation in this formula is the denominator. So it's divided in this case by 7. Self-orientation, you want to be a 1. You want that to be as low as you possibly can, because that means that this client feels that this CPA is actually more focused on himself than he truly is on the benefits of the client, right? So that's a very important piece there. But again, I could do a whole session with you, and we're already at 1:30 just on this. Like I have in my own personal practice, I have used this information to go build relationships with other advisors, because I'm telling them, what's going on in the current relationship and what the client thinks about it, but I'm also bringing a solution for how we can fix it together, right? I could go on and on about why this is powerful, knowing the information of who are the other people sitting at your client's table, assessing them and things of that nature. And then we also, have these 2 powerful tools, and we don't do enough teaching on these anymore, and we need to, because some of our longstanding clients live and breathe by these, because nobody's talking about this stuff. Accountants, lawyers, wealth management firms, like investment, like nobody's talking about this stuff. And so everyone's talking about risk tolerance as it relates to your investment tolerance, but we're talking about global strategy risk. We're talking about global risk. And these are very simple assessments. And so like, if you look at it here, right, like this is on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 means you have no tolerance for it. 5 means you have very high tolerance for it, right? Around written reports, frequent meetings, detailed presentations, multiple tax returns, multiple strategies, so on, so forth. You can read down the list. So how do you deal with these areas of complexity? And just super, super, super powerful. Same thing around, again, risk, as I was talking about, lack of historical performance. So like there's grading in each and every one of these. Obviously, when you start to look at being audited or, public embarrassment or civil litigation, those have heavier weights to them than something where it's just lack of historical performance. But it really is important to know, right? When you look across the family, right? William, Deborah, actually their kids got brought into the process. So Kelly and Andrew. And so you can just see, and now one of the reports you can actually create, and you'll see it in the report. But like, if I look at this around the complexity, I'll just do like the complexity comparison here real quick. We created this, it's like I think it's called like a spidergram or something of that nature, but so if you look at this, right, it actually compares, in this case, mom and dad and their 2 adult children, right, on where they actually sit in conjunction with one another as it relates to complexity, managing and taking on and handling complexity in these 10 very specific areas, right? So it's just to really understand alignment and the planning process and how we maybe need to communicate or deal with different people around different things. So just, again, like these are not normal conversations, everyday conversations that advisors are having out there with their clients. So I could tell you all kinds of stories about how advisors are using that, because you all are seeing it all the time. You're coming into situations with prospective clients you're trying to bring on board, and I know you're seeing it. You're reviewing their current investment strategies and all of these things, and you're seeing people taking on significant risk, and the clients have no clue that they're taking on the levels and amounts of risk that they're taking in a lot of cases, right? So on that side of things, and maybe putting estate plans together that have just way too much sophistication to them, that there's simpler ways to get the same things done. And so it's creating a thing where people might be taking more risk than they're comfortable with, or they might be having situations through the strategies they've deployed that are too complex and requiring all kinds of ongoing work and oversight. So this just allows you to actually build and put plans in place that are in alignment with who people are and what's important to them. So it's just kind of a game changer. And then just last thing I'll share, and I want to be respectful of your time because I know these are supposed to be a half an hour, but when you get into our questionnaires, right, we've got our legacy questionnaire, we've got our business questionnaires for closely held family business and non-family business. Those two are pretty much identical, except for the family business has some additional questions that get about the family. The analysis and the assessments that you can do in here by having multiple owners in the business fill those out is just super powerful. Same thing around on the legacy questionnaire, which I'll go into. But then we have the family legacy questionnaire, which is for the next generation, a rising generation. Nothing like our questionnaires out there in the market. They've been designed and created with some of the best and brightest minds, psychology world, business consulting world, things of that nature. So really, really powerful. But like if you look at the legacy questionnaire, our legacy questionnaire, which is around estate planning, legacy planning, it's one of the starting points of generational wealth planning, right? But very powerful tool. And, you know, you have, in this case, William and Deborah both completing the questionnaires, going through and answering it. And in the end, you've got all these reports that, Qualitate will generate for you. So, one simple report just to take a quick look at here is what we call the questionnaire profile report. And this is just a really simple tool that goes through and looks at the 39 questions in that questionnaire that you had your client or prospective client, a husband and wife, complete. And, at the end, out of the 39 questions, they actually answered 32 different from one another. So what this report will show you is the areas that are bolded are where they answered differently, and the unbolded are ones where they answered the same. So as a part of the estate planning process, like, this is huge. Lawyers love this. The fact that you can go through and ask these questions, most of which they're not even going to get into in their typical process, but clarify these things and get alignment in the family before you actually send them off to the lawyers to draft documents and all these things. Documents take on a whole nother realm, become so much more valuable and purposeful. And the accountants and lawyers love it when you actually bring this level of clarification to them. And guess what? At the end of the day, not only are your clients going to get a better outcome and better documents and things that are representative of what they really want, but guess what? You're going to save them time with these other professionals by doing this work. And, so just there's so many valuable things. But again, that's just one tool. It also, you can do affirmation statements out on their questionnaire responses, right? To say, hey, here's how you answered it. Take another look. Is this really what you want to say? Or do you want to change it? It'll do differences between couples. Same thing in the business context. You got 3 business owners. You can do a differences report and you can find out where these owners aligned or misaligned. So there are some advanced planning tools that go beyond. I still think they're qualitative in nature, not necessarily quantitative, which is why those other financial analytical tools are important. In a perfect world, this would be embedded in one of those leading financial planning tools, and you'd have the capability to do this all in one house. I hope that's in our future, but I'm hoping today, at least, that I'm justifying why it's important for you to open this up and to use this and to dig into some of these conversations a little bit. Doesn't have to be scary, but just to really connect with clients on a much different level, but to be able to document and report on these important conversations. It isn't happening out there, and it's going to differentiate you and your value proposition to clients at such a dramatic, different level than what everybody else is doing. So again, you can see all the different reports here. When you look at the full report builder inside of our system, I mean, it's full of reports. I don't know how much of this you can see, but there's probably, 75 different reports. And so ultimately, you're probably going to find your mix of tools and reports and outputs that you love. Like, this becomes the standard for how we present to clients, how we make that final presentation. And again, remember, even with the greatest intentions, I mean, we work with some great advisors. You're here. Some of you are here today, right? Even with the greatest intentions, I'm telling you, this stuff gets lost. It can become vapor in the relationship. And so documenting it and capturing it and revisiting it with clients each and every year, right? Especially your best clients. Like, this stuff's always evolving and changing. You're going to have a different relationship and connection than you would have otherwise. And so anyways, I really hope that this is helpful on two different sides. One, thinking about how can we connect better, deeper with our clients, differentiate, and then how can we leverage this technology that we might not be leveraging as well as we can in order to be able to do that. So I'll leave it with that. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sitting in. Make sure you reach out to Michael if in fact you want to get, some sample outputs, deliverables. Happy to do that. If you want to schedule a demo and have a chat about it, reach out to Michael for that as well. We'd love to show you. It's inexpensive, and we'd love to see you integrating it more into your business. So thanks for being here. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll see you around soon. Cheers.